Hello, I'm very excited to be back with you today, and I'm really excited to share this information. I needed to ask you a couple of questions, and I wonder if you know that 70% of all change initiatives fail, according to the PMI 2014 study. 70%. Did you know that SHRM, the Society of Human Resource Management, has recognized that change management is a core competency for HR professionals and for trainers? And did you know that poorly led change can lead to confusion, can lead to loss of morale and motivation in your workforce, and that it can also lead to a lot of wasted resources? So imagine, if you will, having an easy to follow process to stop wondering what to do next and lead your people through change. And I wanted to share with you some easy to remember, easy to understand, and fun ways to think about change. In fact, the New England Journal of Medicine had published an article in 2014 saying that the change management efforts that we used with my client, the state of Michigan, were responsible, actually were one of the key success factors for the major change initiative of the Healthy Michigan Plan, which provided health insurance to 685,000 residents who didn't have insurance before that. Does that sound like a good idea to share that with you today?
Yes.
Good. Okay, so one thing I wanted to start out with is I felt like it would be good to kind of define what is change management DIY. And when we break things down, I wanted to start with what is DIY. So I figured I'd have a quiz for you. What is DIY? Now you have to pick the right answer. Is it done it yesterday? Is it doesn't interest you? Or is it do it yourself?
Do it yourself.
Do it yourself, right? Excellent. Everybody knows DIY. How many of you have found yourselves in a situation where you have to do it yourself? How many of you in the past year have had somebody say, oh, could you lead this part of this change? Could you handle this part? Take over this piece of change? Yes, it's frustrating and you have to do it yourself. Let's look now about change management. What is the definition of change management? Is it scope expansion? Daycare baby changing system? Mind control? Ooh. Well, I have to tell you, it is none of the above. When we talk about change management, I would like to go by the Association of Change Management Professionals, by their definition, which is that change is a transitional process supporting the objective of moving an organization and its stakeholders from a current state to a future state. So moving the organization and stakeholders from a current state to a future state. So change management DIY is providing processes and tools to help people move from that current state to that future state so that the benefits of the change are achieved. People don't love change, so it's important to recognize that if we don't know how to identify the benefit, or we don't know what the benefit is and we can't clearly explain the benefit to people, it's really hard for them to be able to get excited, on board, or even know what to do when it comes to change. I will tell you, I worked at the University of Michigan on a change initiative, tremendously large change initiative. It was kind of where I learned all the methodology and where I got my feet wet. And this was in 1970, or 1997. There's a 7 in that number somewhere. I'm in training, I don't know numbers. But so in 1997, we were working together, and we had to get all these schools and colleges, 23 schools and colleges, excited about this enterprise-wide change. And they would come to our meetings, and my boss was brilliant, and she would say to people, she was extremely technical, she would tell them, okay, what we're going to do is we're implementing an enterprise-wide relational database. And so that means that instead of all your 23 schools and colleges having your own database that you put your stuff in and out of, we're going to share. See, here's all the databases. And we're going to share them. See how that's all sharing? And all of our sponsors, our liaisons, and more importantly, the people we had to get on board for the schools and colleges, the true stakeholders who were going to make this happen, they would look at me like you're looking at me. Oh, really? What does that mean? And so it was very frustrating because we could not accurately describe the benefit of this change. We'd say, you won't have to go in and out of 6 systems every day. You won't have to ask permission of the law school to look at your own student. You won't have to fill out your forms 8 times because you are going to 8 different places. None of this sounded like a benefit. It sounded like work. So what we ended up doing was having these meetings over and over and showing this picture. And then I had my 2 little girls, were about 3 and 1 at the time, my 2 oldest now. And they were in and out of the car seats, you know, that age when you have to put your kids in and out of car seats to do anything. And we were out one Saturday morning and we were doing errands, and I was putting them in and out of their car seat because first we had to go grocery shopping. We got our groceries. Then they needed shoes because they were always, you know, growing. I mean, these children, they do grow. And so we had to go to the shoe store and get our shoes. I had to stop at the hardware store and get filters for the furnace. We had to stop at the bank and I had to get money out of the bank. And we were in and out of the car, in and out of the car seats. And I thought about this and I thought, that's a real hassle. Maybe somehow we can tell our sponsors and our stakeholders that it's a hassle to go in and out of 23 databases day in and day out. Maybe that'll resonate. What happened next was really surprising. I went to a Meijer. You guys know Meijer Thrifty Acres? I went to a Meijer and I went in once and I got groceries and I got shoes and I got hardware and I even went to the bank at Meijer. I could have gotten my hair cut if I felt like it. Like, they do everything. And I came out, I had taken the kids out of their car seat, in and out once, one time. I thought, this is it. Our enterprise-wide system for the University of Michigan is just like Meijer's. Exactly. And I went and told my boss and she said, no way, no way. This thing is costing like $700 million. We are never going to say that. That is ridiculous. And don't ever tell anyone you thought that. So like, okay, I won't. So we went to our next stakeholder meeting. And Stacy put this on the wall. And she said, see how great this is? Don't you understand how phenomenal your lives are going to be with this relational database? And they all started to get up and leave. And she quickly said, have you ever heard of Meijer? Do you know how at Meijer you go in one time and you get everything you need done? And then you leave and you've got all the stuff you needed that you used to have to go to different stores for? This is like Meijer. And all these liaisons and stakeholders turned around and they looked at her and they were like, why didn't you say so? We love Meijer's. Like, of course we want Meijer's. We want this ease. We want this benefit of being able to go one place and do everything. So part of making sure that we are doing our job to help people change is being able to explain the change in a way that makes sense to them. So the change management tools that I wanted to talk about today, and I think about this as, you know, like kind of building your change management muscle, right? Does anybody like to work out and you like to kind of go and it feels good to build your muscles as you're going? This is your 6-pack for building your change management muscle. I've got 6 tools here, and we're going to talk about all of these tools briefly, but I'm going to focus on one of them tonight. We have the change impact assessment. And that impact assessment is kind of a bigger than a bread box. You know, how big is this change look? And many times for that assessment, things you want to find out are how many people are going to be impacted. Will most people have the same type of change, or is this going to be different types of change for everybody? Where are people located when we're talking about a change impact assessment? Because we're trying to figure out How hard is this going to be at a really sky-high level? The second piece, and this is the one we'll spend a little more time today, is the stakeholder assessment. Who are those stakeholders? And what do we need to make sure that they understand? Then there's the sponsorship strategy. Change needs a leader, a sponsor. It needs somebody to be active and visible and to say the things that need to be said and to send out the newsletters and to go to the events and to be the champion.